Hi everyone, my name is Beth Tennyson. I'm a researcher in Sam Strengths' group who's a lecturer in the CEB department. My research focuses on using microscopy techniques to look at solar cell materials specifically. The reason why I'm interested in looking at solar cell materials is because we are undergoing currently a large energy transition. What you can see on this graph is what needs to happen by the year 2050 in order to reach only a 2 degrees Celsius temperature increase. Now, currently, and actually this is a little bit out of date, renewables need to move into 24% up to 85% by 2050, and solar has to play a really large role here, going from, well, currently it's about 2% today to 22% by 2050. And this energy transition is ongoing. To do this, we need two things. First, you have to reduce the cost of solar. Second is to increase the efficiency. This will help reach that goal faster. We can reach it with current technologies, but to get there on time, it's going to require massive amounts of effort. And using those two qualities will help us. So maybe it might surprise you, but we have actually quite a large toolbox when it comes to solar cell materials. What I'm showing you in this plot is the solar cell efficiency as a function of time. So we're looking at a history of the use of solar cells. My research focuses on perovskite and perovskite on silicon. Now, what you're most familiar with probably is the silicon curve. So this is roughly the efficiency of materials that you're familiar with seeing. But new materials, perovskite, which is this orange and yellow curve, is a very new material which is showing very similar efficiencies at this point and is very promising. And there's also perovskite on top of silicon. Now, this is what we call a multi-junction material device, and it actually can go beyond the theoretical limit of silicon, and you can see it's performing better already than the silicon on its own. So these two types of devices are very promising for the future of solar. Now, what is perovskite? Well, it's interesting because it's a solution processed solar cell material, which is unlike most other semiconductor solar cell materials. It's also semi-transparent and actually can be color tunable, and it can be fabricated on top of flexible substrates. So it can go beyond just the applications that you might see in silicon, which cannot bend. And another great thing about perovskite is that it could be placed on top of silicon because of the solution process and its easy fabrication techniques. So what a multi-junction solar cell looks like is two solar cells put together, and that allows us to extract more of the sun's light and absorb it, and then subsequently turn that into power. It looks like this, but actually the main challenge and what my research is focused on is if you zoom in on the silicon solar cell and scan it and look at the topography, the surface actually looks like this, and it looks like that on purpose. There's all these pyramids all around, and the reason why is because light comes in and is incident and then scatters all over the place on top of the silicon, which helps absorb more of the light rather than bouncing straight back out. So it helps boost efficiency. But how do you fabricate something on top of a surface like this? Well, because perovskite can be solution processed, it's actually not so hard. What we're looking at here is a scanning electron microscopy image, top-down view now. So these are the tips of the pyramids, and we can see that they go out to the bases. Now, silicon is actually a quite smooth material, but when we place perovskites on, we get this grainy, and that's what the perovskite is. It's this grainy at the microscale, made up of grains. And this causes quite a lot of heterogeneity or non-uniformity within the topography, which is what the surface is looking like. But my question is, and I think this is why microscopy can help answer it, is do these variations in structure impact the performance at all? And we want to boost that performance even more. We need to make sure that this variation is not causing any degradation of the overall device performance, because we want to boost that as much as possible. So how do we study this? Well, we use what we call photoluminescence, which is PL shown here. We use photoluminescence mapping. So right now I'm showing you a sweeping of wavelengths to gather a local photoluminescence emission. And now what is that? What am I looking at here? Well, let me go into that a bit further, but this is the microscope that I'm using. Photoluminescence, very briefly, is what happens when you shine light on a solar cell material. That light gets absorbed, and it also excites electrons, which is what's going to be producing the current. However, instead of generating a current and letting that go into electricity, we just let that electron relax back down. And that's what's called photoluminescence. When it relaxes back down, it releases light, and that's the light that we're capturing here, that photoluminescence. And it will tell us a lot about the performance and how well light is being absorbed. So this is what a photoluminescence map of the perovskite on top of silicon looks like. And what we want to see, it would be a very uniform map. That means everything is working really well. However, what we get are non-uniformities. And pardon, the intensity of the photoluminescence peak will be governed by how well the solar cell material absorbs light. So when it's not intense, when it's a dimmer region, that means light is not being absorbed as well there. And when it's brighter, this is the regions that it's going well. So we need to figure out what's going on in those dark spots. But microscopy is the tool that we want to use to diagnose and see what's going on and get the first evaluation of the material. The location of the peak is also relatively important because what you can see is there's actually the low will not be absorbed. So this will tell us where the light gets cut off and where we stop absorbing. And the fact that it's non-uniform is also relatively interesting and will play a role in the overall performance of the solar cell material. So this is just one application of using microscopy to study materials. But microscopy is great because it's universally used. You can use it in plant science, viruses and bacteria, looking at how those move around, and also just looking at atomic structures, where are defects, studying what's wrong with certain materials or how to make things stronger. So there's when you become or when you know a bit more about microscopy, you can actually look at many materials rather than siloing it into very specific sort of application. You can be much more diverse. So that's kind of the great thing about microscopy as well. So with that, I'll leave you and just thank you. Thanks to the Strengths Lab, and good luck with your decision in deciding what you would like to study. And if you have any questions, feel free to get in touch with me. Again, my name is Beth Tennyson. Thank you.